Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I'm Infectious Diseases in Cattle.
And I'm Gary. And today we're going to talk about a film from writer-director Charlie Kaufman. Synecdoche, New York. Iain, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story follows a theatre director called Caden Cotard, played by Philip Seymour Hoffman. His wife leaves him, taking their daughter with her, and he's given a grant to put on a massively elaborate stage production. But as he starts to build this theatre piece, the lines between reality and fantasy start to blur.
Now, this is something that if you're familiar with Kaufman's writing, or, well, pretty much his writing, because this was his directorial debut, and he's only directed just a couple of things since this, but he's the man responsible for writing Being John Malkovich, Adaptation, and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Now, you could probably see some similarities in all of those works, and that is because Charlie Kaufman's work does sort of test the boundaries of fantasy within our own reality, and that's very much what this film is about. And it's interesting enough that when questioned or interviewed about this film, Charlie Kaufman said, I'm not actually going to give you any interpretations about what this film's about, because that will take away any meanings that anybody else would derive from actually watching this film.
Yeah.
Right at the beginning of the film, it opens with Caden waking up in bed.
Yeah.
But just before that, we can hear his daughter singing over the opening credits, which then goes straight into a radio play. I think it's just finishing reading a poem.
Yeah.
And right at the very beginning of the film there, the underlying theme is death.
Whoever has no house now will never have one. Whoever is alone will stay alone, will sit, read, write long letters to the evening, and wander the boulevards up and down, restlessly, while the dry leaves are blowing.
Goodness, that's harsh, isn't it?
Well, perhaps, but truthful.
And how final it is. But it's also right at the beginning there that the person who's just finished reading that poem says that the end is always written into the beginning. So if you're paying attention, you can understand that death is coming at the end of this film, right from the beginning.
I'm just going to say right now, I don't like this movie. I've watched this movie twice, and the first time I watched it, I was really interested in watching it. You know, I'm a big fan of Philip Seymour Hoffman. I've loved him since the first time I saw him in Twister as Dusty. You know, I think he was or is, you know, one of the greatest actors of our time. And I was just really excited about sitting down and watching this film. First time I watched it, 2 hours later, I was just depressed, you know? And then when we said about reviewing it again, those feelings just came back. This film sucks the joy and happiness out of me. I don't think, or I don't know if Charlie Kaufman meant for that to happen, but there's just no positivity.
That's bad. Caden, does that feel terrible?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Well, the film is more of an observation of life, and it's about people struggling to find their own identities. And we're also showing how within relationships, because the opening of the film highlights the problems in their marriage and in their routines of the morning.
Yeah.
Now, if you're paying attention to the film, you'll notice that this one scene at the beginning spans almost 2 months. From the moment he wakes up and listens to the radio broadcast, you hear the dates.
22nd of September in Synecdoche.
He goes out to get the newspaper. It's not the same newspaper he brings back into the house, because weeks and months have passed since that moment. So you're seeing 2 months, essentially, of this morning routine.
Yeah.
And you're seeing how little they actually communicate with each other. Straight away, Caden goes to the obituary section every day, and there's a clue or signifier as to what he's about. And here's another thing, is that his name, or the family name, Cotard, is actually a name of a mental illness, where you actually believe that you are already dead, so you no longer feel the need to eat
Yeah.
or look after yourself in any way. And again, that's pretty much just an identifier as to who this character is, because he is pretty much already dead inside, and so he's struggling to keep anyone around him even happy or interested in him on a deeper level.
See, but this is it. This is what I don't understand and don't like about this film, is that Caden is the main character, and when people first meet him, they're excited about meeting him. They think he's a genius with the productions he puts on and the time he spends building up his theatre. But like we said, his wife, played by the awesome Catherine Keeler, you know, she can't stand being around him because he brings her down. You know, she seeks happiness in her friends, you know, just trying to stay away from him. The further relationships that he actually goes for with the awesome Samantha Morton playing Hazel, she loves him as well, and then their relationship fails because of his problems in the bedroom. You know, he ends up finding another love interest in Michelle Williams, who again loves him and is excited to be around him, and yet when she is actually around him, he depressingly brings her down even more. You know, he's being followed by Tom Nguyen, who played Kane in RoboCop 2. He copies Caden so closely that he himself just gets ultimately depressed, and I'm just like, so what am I supposed to be getting from this film? I understand that this film has multiple layers and different viewpoints for people to question and take apart and all that stuff, but for 2 hours I'm just like this.
It's safe to say that if you're watching this video review and you haven't seen the film yet, there's enough here in this just small sequence that we haven't even really discussed the film. We're talking about the thematics of the film here, and it's already heavily weighed down.
Yeah.
So if you are interested in seeing the film, you should probably see the film before continuing to watch the rest of this video, because we're probably going to get into some specific spoiler issues which would impact on the viewing of the film. Though, however, I will say I've seen the film more than 4 times, and it just gets more interesting each time I watch it.
Really?
Yes, really, because each time I watch it, I see things that Charlie Kaufman's put into there that I never was aware of before. I mean, you look at auteur film directors. I mean, he not only wrote and directed this film, but he also wrote the lyrics for every song that's in the film. And each one of those songs is about the meanings of the characters, and it's also about the themes of life that goes on within the film.
Okay, I totally get that. Watching the film multiple times, just like any other film, you know, you see other things. This, like I said, this is the second time I watched this film. I never noticed Tom Nguyen hiding behind the tree right at the beginning. I
Or
thought
in the cartoons.
I thought that was pretty good. But come on, Caden, the character, does he make you feel good?
He doesn't make me feel good, but he is a very interesting lead character, because throughout the film, we're watching him with this projection of himself, of this genius theatre director, where even his own wife criticizes him and saying that all you're doing is rehashing a play from so many years ago for a bunch of people that don't know the difference between what's good art and bad art.
Yeah.
And so he gets rejected by his wife several times in the film.
560 lighting cues. I don't know why I make it so complicated.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
Caden, I'm sorry. I can't come tonight. I'm sorry. I have 2 canvases I have to get ready to ship for tomorrow. I know
It's opening night.
Especially when he comes home after the opening night, and she said I couldn't be there. She
Yeah.
decided to stay at home and get stoned with her friend.
Yeah. I'd love you to know what you think.
Well, it doesn't matter what I think.
Absolutely. It's all about your artistic satisfaction, Caden.
Yeah, because she couldn't be around him anymore. I mean, he's just, like you said, he is just looking at death all the time. He feels dead inside. He doesn't even, I mean, the relationship he has with his daughter, I actually thought would be the one thing that would actually make him positive. You know, it's his daughter, it's his seed he's bringing into the world, but he is such a selfish, self-indulged character. He cares only really about how he feels, and he feels dead all the time.
Your turn to face the challenges of chemotherapy.
Yes, but that is also fascinating to watch.
Okay. But this is the thing. I mean, you watch Indiana Jones, you get adventure from the film. You know, you watch a horror movie, you get suspense and you get terror.
Well, in many ways, I would also say that Synecdoche, New York is a horror film.
Yeah, he's the killer all the way through. He kills absolutely everybody he comes into contact with.
What are you doing?
I've watched you forever, Caden, but you've never really looked at anyone other than yourself. So watch me. Watch my heart break. Watch me jump.
But throughout the film, I mean, with the fact that he ends up recruiting thousands of actors just to play these minute parts.
Yeah.
But they're all playing these parts that you would see in normal life. And it's weird because when you're watching a scene play out in the film and you're seeing these extras go around in the background, they're actually extras within his play as they are extras within this film.
Yeah. See, this is it. This is where I throw this film up and juggle it, because I love Charlie Kaufman's view on it. I mean, the set in itself of the giant warehouse, you know, the building of the city on the inside, the extras, the characters, the whole theatre production itself is absolutely brilliant. But watching Caden wander around, you know, he's getting iller and sicker through the film, through his own mentality.
I'm not sure I can work with you, Caden. I'm angry.
Think we'd have a lot of fun together. I miss you.
You know, he like we said right from the start, all he thinks about is death, and so he kind of is wanting himself to die.
Well, there's a point in the film where he sees his second lover sort of getting on with her basement-dwelling boyfriend.
Yeah.
And he tries to commit suicide at one point in the film.
Yeah.
So, and there's probably other moments in the film where he's felt that way or gone to do it, but has been pulled back from the brink through other people. And there's an underlying theme in the film where everybody projects an image of themselves to everybody else in order to be liked or to become more compatible with them.
Yeah.
And yet the longer you sort of put up these false perceptions for people, the more they'll find out who you really are.
Yeah.
And that's something that his wife says early on in the film.
Everyone is disappointing. The more you know someone, it just... This whole romantic love thing, it's just projection anyway, right? I don't know.
And I just think that that's an underlying theme throughout the film, which is just portrayed brilliantly here.
Yeah, I won't take that away. The acting from the male leads, I mean, even though we only follow like two massively male leads, Philip Seymour Hoffman and Tom Newen, are brilliant. The strong female actresses in this film are absolutely amazing. If you ever needed a film to actually study strong female actresses, this is one of them. But I mean, I don't want to get angry. It's not as bad as Tekken. I would watch this over Tekken again. But it's the fact that, you know, his first wife, Adele, she leaves him because she can't kind of stand being around him anymore, and she goes off and she gets successful. You know, he goes out with Hazel, and their relationship fails, and she successfully goes off and has the relationship with the guy in the basement and has two wonderful sons. He then meets Michelle Williams, and their relationship starts to flounder because he goes back to Hazel, and then he messes up those relationships even more by going all the way back to Adele. And I'm just like, you're doing my head in now, Caden. You just Concentrate on one person. Stop being selfish and trying to salvage relationships that you destroyed in the first place anyway.
Character's so beautiful.
Yeah, I have to go find my daughter.
Your daughter's right here.
My real daughter.
Excuse me?
No, my first daughter, Olive. I have to go find her.
Please, don't do this to us!
She's tattooed. She's tattooed.
Everyone is tattooed.
Oh, I've never seen that before.
It gets really complicated towards the end where, because they're recreating the whole set of this play, and the director and the secretary are so much now a part of the play that they need to hire actors to play them within the play. So you end up getting Sammy, who ends up playing Caden, and they get somebody else in to play Hazel, but then certain things happen, so then they need to bring in understudies to play those ones, and then you've got the real Caden who's falling in love, who's having sex with the replacement Hazel, while Hazel's having sex with the replacement Caden. And but the thing is, it's because they spend so much time with each other that the people that they are falling in love with, the people that are playing the person they're in love with, because that's more genuine than the person they are in love with, because they're only seeing those false perceptions that those people have created about themselves.
Did you get all that?
You don't like him, do you?
Yeah, he reminds me of you.
I'm me. You don't need someone to remind you of me.
Well, don't worry, Kaden. I like you more. I do. Just Sammy's fun.
I'm fun.
Oh, sweetie, no, you're not.
And that's why this film for me is so amazing to keep rewatching, because you just keep seeing all these little things in the film that are just fascinating to watch, just from a screenwriting perspective.
Yeah, like we said, from a screenwriting perspective, this film is brilliant, but it just has no happiness. There's no positivity. I mean, even...
Well, in a film that's dealing essentially with death, where death is the underlying theme from the beginning all the way to the end, of course, it's almost going to be a joyless film.
Final Destination deals with death all the way through, and that's still enjoyable.
You can't compare Charlie Kaufman to Final Destination.
No, but you're looking at it from a film perspective. You know, yes, this film is realistic and gritty and dealing with death, but all it shows to me is that, yeah, if you focus on death all the way through for 2 hours, you are just going to be depressed.
I'm very, very lonely. I don't know what's wrong. I just... I'm sorry. Do you understand? Can you understand loneliness?
You know, it's...
So learn from that.
I did. I learned not to watch Synecdoche again. I mean, it's up to the point where he builds this massive theatre production inside the warehouse so that he can hide from the reality that is outside. And the reality that's outside the warehouse is the world is coming to an end.
Well, that's, again, the underlying theme of the film is that time is passing so quickly that you're not even aware of it, or that time is relative to whomever, because... For Caden, a week has passed. For other characters, a whole year has passed.
Yeah, well, this is it. This just shows to me that he has mental issues. You know, massive mental issues. Because even Hazel says to him at one point after Adele's left, you know, he says, "Oh, it's only been a week," and she's like, "No, it's been a year."
Adele was only on vacation.
He hasn't called since she left. It's been a year.
It's been a week.
Buy you a calendar.
You need to get over it. So obviously he tries to get over it by going with her, but he can't get over the fact that he himself destroyed his first relationship, his first love. And so he wants to kind of salvage it. When that fails, he tries to salvage the relationship with Hazel by destroying the one he's having with Michelle Williams.
I love the fact that time is passing so quickly throughout the film that we see all these characters age, But when they actually step outside of the theatre production room, you see that there's massive blimps flying across the sky.
I love
that
the blimp.
there's homeless people and that there's street fighting and all sorts going on outside.
Yeah.
It's like a war of the worlds is happening outside, where inside their bubble, their protective theatre bubble, which they're preparing for a play which no one will ever see.
No.
Which, again, I will say is that your life, your singular life, is very much a theatre production that only you are going to witness, other than those few people around you which will come in and go. But it's a theatre play that the whole world is never going to watch, and inevitably you're going to die, and the room that you occupied, the house that you lived in, still going to be there, and the audience that never came or never even knew about you, still going to carry on anyway.
I mean, one of the most disturbing scenes in this film. I mean, there are many. I've got a list of disturbing scenes of this film, but one of them is when his father dies, and he gets the phone call, and they instead of talking about how his father was or how his father, he actually gets the phone call about how his dad was so corrupted by cancer. He was screaming for Caden because he wanted to tell Caden how Caden failed him.
He said he regretted his life. And he said a lot of things. Too many to recount.
There was so little left of him. They had to fill the coffin with cotton balls to keep him from rattling around.
I mean, you want to talk about black comedy when he hangs up on the doctor, whoever's just informed him. He's like, he died horribly in excruciating pain. I was just like, wow, the doctor actually said that to him.
I did not find that funny.
That, for me, is the black comedy in this film. It is a dark comedy from start to finish. If you have that funny bone in your body, you will find yourself wondering whether you should laugh or not throughout the film, because it is dark comedy.
I show you my leg. I stand close, and you inhale my perfume. I offer my ripe flower to you, and you deny it. This book is over.
You shouldn't laugh, because that's at least, 3/4 way through the film. So we're 3/4 way through a 2-hour film, and that's a funny bit? I mean, his mum is killed in a home invasion. They go to the funeral. He takes the understudy for Hazel with him, because Hazel's out having a relationship with Sammy behind her husband's back. And he goes, you can sleep in my mum and dad's room. And then he opens the door and there's blood all over the floor from where she's been pulled out of the bed and killed. You laugh, but I do not find that funny.
I mean, in real life, no, that's tragic, that's terrible.
But this is supposed to be real life.
No, it's a fantasy of real life.
Is it?
Highlighting those things in real life in a exaggerated way.
Is it? The lines blur between what is reality or not, We spend...
And that's highlighted. Sorry, that's also highlighted in the scene where Hazel's going to buy her first house. She's in her mid-30s,
the burning house,
and she's walking around this house, and it's on fire. There's fire in the walls. There's smoke everywhere, and she's like, "Yeah, it's my first house." And the estate agent's just like, "Well, it's take it or leave it." And she's like, "Well, I don't know about the fire. It could kill me." And she's like, "Well, we all choose how we die. This is how you choose."
I like it. I do. I'm just really concerned about dying in the fire.
It's a big decision how one prefers to die.
And
that's below. We do not choose how we die.
Well,
we die when and if we die.
Just like the film would also suggest, you can almost choose where. To some extent, I mean, if you're going to spend the majority of your time in one location, odds are you might die there. And nobody ever really knows that when they buy a car or buy a house or go somewhere, whether that's going to be their last, that's where they're going to die. And that's the beauty of this film as well, is that death catches these characters at completely unexpected turns in their life, just like for real.
Yeah, well...
And just to come back to the comedy aspect of Hazel's death in the film, is that when the paramedics are in this smoke-filled house...
Might be smoke inhalation.
Just like, well, no shit. She's been in this burning house for like 50 years.
But that's something I don't understand, because the son has been in the basement. When she kind of turns up to buy the house, the son of the estate agent is living in the basement. And I'm just like, well, he's lived there longer than her. And yet he hasn't died. He actually leaves her to go off and actually find somebody else. I genuinely believe these people stick around Caden after a while just because they feel sorry for him and they actually want him to change. But he's such a selfish character. He's never going to change.
Maybe because no one wants to hear about my misery. Because they have their own. Fuck everybody. Amen.
He is so stuck in his one view of putting on this theatre production that, like we said, nobody is ever going to see. So why not just stop? Why not just stop and actually go, you know what, guys, let's do a theatre play on the Jungle Book. You know?
Because Caden wanted to put on a stage production that was larger than himself, in contrast to his ex-wife, whose artistic endeavours become smaller and smaller and smaller until you need a magnifying glass to see them. Caden is looking to make something that is so big that it's all-encompassing.
But but his wife actually manages to reach a level of success. Her pictures are so small, people rush to go see them because they are so brilliant. He puts on builds this massive production lot that nobody will ever see. People stand outside production lot like, when can we get inside? It's terrible out here during the war. And he says, oh, it'll be done when it's done. And it's just like,
well, that's it. It's done when it's done. It means it's done when he's dead. It's done when life's over. Because that is what his production is.
Today's rehearsal?
I have a new title, maybe.
Oh.
Infectious Diseases in Cattle. The title means a lot of things. You'll see. It means a lot.
I have a lot of favourite scenes in this film. I like all of the dark comedy moments. I like all of the little hints about time passing.
Yeah.
I think for me, one of the most memorable scenes in the film is when Sammy has been playing Caden for so many years as part of the play, has now being rejected by the real Hazel, that he is now imitated him so much that he's now become a part of him. And when he's feeling the exact same way that Caden does, he decides that he's going to kill himself because he's now playing Caden so well. And it's a really dramatic moment when Sammy does kill himself, and the real Caden is just devastated. He's like, but I didn't jump, somebody saved me. And there was no one there to save his replacement. I think that the ending of the film is so poignant when he can no longer really manage himself, that they end up having to find a third replacement to play him.
Yeah.
And he's just sort of cleaning this apartment that his ex-wife used to reside in, just like he was doing almost from the midpoint of the film, where we met the librarian from the Ghostbusters movie.
Yeah, that's who she was. I was trying to work out who she was.
She was also an Ace Ventura Pet Detective. But
nice.
Right up to that poignant last moment of the film, it was just beautiful, breathtaking, immersive. I felt sympathy and empathy for all of the characters, and when the film ended, I was stunned silent for at least 10 minutes while I had to try and understand everything that I'd just experienced in those short 2 hours, which is also why I've continued to recommend the film to as many people as possible, because otherwise people are not going to appreciate the fantastic effort that this film is. And I cannot praise this film anymore, but I will say that obviously this film is not for everyone.
I'm going to change our normal viewing pleasure at the moment and do my most hated scene. I haven't done this one for a while, but this film holds one of the most painfully filled scenes I think I've ever seen. And it's the scene where Caden's daughter has been taken away from him from a very young age, and she's been taken to Berlin by her mother. And he has spent quite a few times in the movie trying to rectify the relationship with her by sending her presents, stuff like that, even though it collides and destroys other relationships that he's having, especially with Michelle Williams and his new daughter. It destroys that one. And he searches for her all over the place, and he finds that she's been kind of brought up in quite a disturbing upbringing. He finds out that she's dying, and so he goes to the hospital to see her. And she can't speak English, she's only speaking German, so they have to put on these headsets so that it can translate. And I absolutely hate this scene because she has been poisoned with the idea that Caden abandoned her at a young age to go off and have anal sex. This is a quote. To go off and have anal sex with his homosexual lover, Eric. Now, we've been following the film for over an hour and a half up to this point, and so we know that this is untrue. You know, he's actually been trying to find her, and it's just the environment that she's been in, that she's been poisoned against him. And she says to him, I don't have very much time. I want to forgive you before I die. So I want you to admit that you abandoned me to go off with your lover, Eric.
Dass ich dich verlassen habe, Analsex mit meinem homosexuellen Liebhaber Eric zu haben.
I will. I'll say it.
And so Caden, you know, giving in to the dying wish of his daughter, admits that that is what he did. He abandoned her to go off with Eric. And she turns to him and says, I can't forgive you, and dies. And yeah, exactly. The whole film itself has gotten me down to that point, that one point. It's just bloody horrible. Any parent whose child has been taken away from them and has had their mind poisoned against them would absolutely be devastated by that scene, especially by the fact that you would lie to your child just to make them feel better on their deathbed, to have them turn around to you and go, no, I don't.
I hope you're happy, Fergus.
I'm not happy. I'm not happy.
I hate that scene. Weirdly enough, just like Gary, I do recommend this film. I recommend it only because the amazing acting from Philip Seymour Hoffman, Tom Nguyen, and the multitude of female actresses in this film. The sets are absolutely brilliant. There are multiple layers and different viewpoints that people can take while watching this film. But for me, and I'm going to go on a limb and say for a lot of people, this film will suck the happiness, the positivity, and just the niceness of life out of you from its ever-revolving theme of death. So if you're gonna watch this film and it's your first time, be warned, you're gonna sit through 2 hours of death. Caden himself, I believe, either needs a holiday or a shot of heroin. Too soon?
Too soon. Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
I know how to do this play now. I have an idea. I think if everyone...
Guy?